live on YouTube. Here we go. Okay, so it looks like we're good to go. We'll just give it a few more seconds. Today we're going to have an awesome session packed with goodness, with videos. I chose 4 videos for today, which I'm going to show you. I hope you will love every single one of these videos, all 4 of them. Today we're going to be talking about why Kabbalah is being revealed today. Why now? What's happening in the world today? What's happening to us individually? Or maybe it's all connected. So there's a lot of questions about that, and Kabbalists have been anticipating our days for thousands of years. And today we're going to reveal why Kabbalah is being revealed today. We'll just give a few more seconds. In the meantime, I invite you to enjoy the new background we have. So I hope you like it. Some of you are probably saying like, what? What's changed? You don't see any difference. Okay, but you'll see a difference when I play our new opener in a few seconds. Then you'll see a difference. Okay. So, are we ready to get going? Let's see who we have with us today. Say hi, say where you're from. If you enjoy these sessions regularly, then click the like button, click the subscribe button. Let other people know that you enjoy this and that they might also come and join in. Okay, so we have Parrot Girl Tattoo. Hi. Where are you from? We have the X-Men, sorry, I don't know how to say it, from the UK. Bella from Germany, Martin from Canada, awesome. Brent from Canada, Daniela from Belgium, Mary from North Carolina. Keep going, keep writing them in. I won't read them all right now out loud, but then at least you guys can read it or look at it on the screen. Marion from New Mexico, Jensen from Rochester, New York, awesome, hi. And Randy from Georgia, USA, awesome, great to have you with us here. Okay, I think we can get going. Keep saying hi. Hi, Yossi, good to see you again here. Yossi from the Netherlands. Okay, are we ready to get started? And by that I mean, are you ready to see our new Kabbalah Explained Simply intro? Let's do it. Hi, I'm Gil Shir, and welcome to Kabbalah Explained Simply. I'm really happy to be here. I hope you like our new opener. It tries to reflect what we'll be doing in this session. We'll be explaining very simply, although it's a very deep and serious topic, why Kabbalah is being revealed today. What's happening today? What's so special about today? A lot of different methods talk about these years. There was 2012 and there was year 2000 and there are other years as well. Where does all this come from? So actually, Kabbalists, who are the scientists of the deepest hidden layers of reality, they spoke about our times as very special times. Although when we look around us, we might not think they're that special. Chaos, destruction, pandemics, poverty, whatnot, things that are not a laughing matter. And specifically in this time, we're at a very special point of human evolution. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to show you 4 clips from 2 different courses, new courses we have on Kabbalah, and we'll identify where humanity is on this axis of human development. We'll also identify where we are, ourselves, each and every one of you, in our, you could say, individual spiritual development in comparison to this big picture. We'll understand not only why Kabbalah is being revealed today, but how it should be revealed to all people, and hopefully you'll enjoy this session and ask any questions you might have. And if you can click the like, the share button, I would appreciate that. That just helps more people join the session. So I think we're ready to get started. Everything is good. Let's dive into the topic. And I want to start off with showing you the first clip. So the first clip is from one of our courses on Kabbalah. It's called Humanity at a Crossroads. It's based on our film Crossroads, labor pains of a new worldview, and we packed it into a nice course. And I'm not going to tell you where you can find it yet, because for now we haven't released it. But next week's session, I will tell you how you can join the new upgraded Cubby website. So that's going to happen next week. For now, you'll have to be in suspense and just enjoy the video. So let's start off with this first video.
The latest Global Risks Report published by the World Economic Forum presents an astonishing risks interconnection map. It clearly reveals how all global risks are interrelated and interwoven, so that economic, environmental, geopolitical, social, and technological risks are hugely interdependent. A crisis in one area will quickly lead to a crisis in other areas. The interconnection and complexity in this map, compared to our surprise at the impact and speed of the recent financial crises, illustrates the discord that exists between all systems we've built and shows just how disconnected we've become. Our attempts at managing these systems are fragmented and simplistic, and not up to the challenges that we face today.
The way we use natural resources is based on our economic system, which is closely related to our social values, which directly affect our psychological and emotional systems and all our actions. What we see in the world is a reflection of who we are. You cannot separate what's happening in the world and what's happening within people. So we're not just in crisis in politics or in economics. Human beings are now in crisis with themselves.
When I studied biocybernetics, it was a wonder to see that the more we delve into nature, the animal kingdom, plant life, ecosystems, we see that everything is interconnected through reciprocal actions, some of which we understand, some of which we still don't. But now, human society is also becoming so integrated that it's like a single closed system that encompasses the entire globe. The crisis we're facing now is actually very unique. We are all closed together in the same system, and we can no longer do whatever we want in it. World leaders, presidents, have lost the ability to manage the people. It's as though the world began to move without any reins, but rather according to a new law of interdependence, of connection, the law that is characteristic of integral systems. And here we see that world leaders, first of all, they can't even make decisions, whether it's G8 or G20. And even if they arrive at something, they can't realize it.
In science, we started as Newtonian physicists, and we started pretending like we are machines. That was the worldview for some time. That changed with biologists coming along. Biology gives a different view of the human being altogether. Biology says that, well, we are machines, but we are machines with competition, with survival in mind. And we fight for our survival, we compete. So our higher values are important only if they are important for survival. Outside of survival, there is no other impetus to the human being. And because of this idea, we have become, as you know, extremely competitive in our society. If somebody else has something, I must get it. If somebody else doesn't have it yet, I must get it before he or she gets it. And this idea is causing havoc in our society.
Much of our progress in human civilization has been driven by egoistic competition. People try to outdo each other, and that creates better science, better technology, etc. However, now we're at a point where this ego drive has become so extreme that it will stop at nothing in order to be more or have more than others. And so companies are destroying the ecosystem, bankers are creating economic crisis, people are building themselves on the ruin of others.
Our food supplies are increasingly at risk, water resources are increasingly being strained, and our financial systems continue to be highly volatile and risky. At the same time, we're also discovering how all our systems are connected and interdependent. Clearly, business as usual is a dead end.
In the previous days and times, we've been involved, not exclusively, but largely, in the process of individual survival. How do I get through the day? How do I get through the week? How do I get through the month? In the 21st century, we're learning now that we can no longer concentrate on individual survival strategies, that unless we begin to coalesce those strategies and learn how we can survive collectively, that no individual is going to survive in the long run. Again, I don't want to be an alarmist, but I realize that we are facing a very critical time now. The separation theology that humanity has established through the years has created a separation cosmology. That is a cosmological way of looking at things that says everything is separate from everything else. And a separation cosmology has produced a separation sociology. That is a way of socializing with each other that says, I'm over here and you're over there, and our interests will not meet unless they do. If they do, we'll try to cooperate, but if our interests do not meet, if we have separate interests, I may just have to harm you. I may, in fact, just have to kill you.
There's an old story, the grandfather who's speaking to his grandson in the lodge, and the grandson comes in and says, I had a dream last night. In the dream, there were two wolves inside fighting, and one was a black wolf and one was a white wolf. And the black wolf scared me, grandfather, and the white wolf made me feel hopeful. Which one will survive? And the grandfather said, the one you feed the most. And so to me, that is the nature of humanity, the nature of humans, is we have both. Which one we're going to feed the most is the one we're going to see in the world.
Okay, let's jump right into it. So let's start mapping out. Wait, my sound is on? Yes. All right. So let's take a look at these three axes, which you've probably seen quite a few times, but we'll try and add something more this time. Okay, so what we're looking at here is, this is a time axis. Wait a minute, you cannot see that. Okay, how about here? Okay, this is good. So let's say this is time. This is the beginning of time, minus 14 billion years approximately. And this axis here is before time. So what was there before time? So let's just say briefly what Kabbalists say. And you don't have to take my word for it right now, because that's not our focus. But let's just say that Kabbalists found that there was a thought of perfection that wanted to give all of its perfection to something, so it created something that is the exact opposite of it. That is the creation. All right, and 14 billion years of evolution, let's say, let's look at it like this. All right, so what did we see in this clip right now? We saw that in our time today, let's put this around here, we have a few things that are going on. We have interdependence. Whether we like it or not, we're all dependent on one another. We're all connected to one another. We see that no matter where you go, you can't escape this connection, right? And I think the pandemic now made that so clear and evident. You know, no matter where you are, it affected you. It didn't matter what status, what social status you are, if you're rich, if you're poor, This is just one example. There are many, many examples of this butterfly effect, that one thing in one point of the world, it just has impact on everything and everyone all around the world. So interdependence is a given, and that's where the world is today. Now, alongside that interdependence, there is something additional that's going on here. And this is this graph, you could say. This graph is the desire. Or let's call it maybe the ego. So it's the development of the ego or the desire. Why am I separating it to ego and desire? Because ego, we can say, is related to a human being, to a person. And desire is the only thing that was created. Even the vegetative animals, the matter of existence itself, according to Kabbalah, is simply a desire. So even a rock, all it is, it's an energetic force of desire that wants to stay at rest and not move, and that's Newton's first law of motion, right? So what happens when we have this interdependence together with this growing ego? So just try and imagine this outcome. Let's try and imagine a smaller scenario. Imagine 100 people together, locked in, I don't know, a tent or a small, very, very small village, and they're completely interdependent on one another. So, you know, let's say one person is responsible for bringing food, the other one for bringing water, the other one for bringing medicine, and each person has a unique role within that village. And if one person stops doing their job, it has immediate impact, negative impact on everyone, right? So, okay, that's pretty much where the world is today. Now, what happens if you add to that a growing ego? That people are becoming more and more egoist, right? Like one of the speakers in that clip said, that if our interests are the same, then, you know, we'll figure something out. But if not, then you better be careful, because I might have to harm you, I might have to even kill you, right? So imagine what would happen to those 100 people who were gathered together, locked in together in this small village, which really is the whole world, and they're completely interdependent, but their egos are growing and growing and growing. So what is the outcome of this? What do you think? I'd love to hear and see your comments about this. And in the meantime, I'll take a look at the questions doc to see if you have any questions. Okay, there's a question here already about governments and politics. We're not going to go into that. But basically the question from Maria, if I understand it correctly, she's asking if there's such a huge divide among political leaders and among, like we see in the United States right now, among the people as well, how can we still become interconnected? So I just want to emphasize this point. Interconnected, or more precisely interdependent, doesn't mean we're doing it properly. It just states a fact that I'm dependent on you and you are dependent on me. Whether you like it or whether you don't, it's simply a fact. Right? Like, think of the human body. You know, the parts in the human body are interdependent. If one part gets harmed, it can cause harm to the other part. If my liver stops functioning, it can affect my whole body, etc. So interdependence doesn't mean that we're playing the game right. It just means that we have no choice and we are dependent on one another. Right? So just looking for your inputs in the chats. So Mark is saying a conflict of materialism and spirituality. I would even say way before that. If you put in these people who have interdependence, meaning they're just dependent on one another, they don't necessarily feel that or want to feel that, but they are, that's a fact. And that's the fact of the world today. The world is interdependent, whether you like it or not. You can try and avoid recognizing that. You can go to some mountain or hide somewhere, but it's still, you can't escape the fact that everything today is interconnected. So add that to growing egos and we have a problem. The outcome of these two things is crises. That's the root of all kinds of crises we see today. It's simply the combination of these two things. All right? So that's what we saw in this clip now, and I want to go to the next step. So what needs to happen? What do we have to do as individuals, as human society? Let's move on to the next clip. Again, from our documentary that we made about 10 years ago called Crossroads. And we just recently repackaged it into an awesome Kabbalah course with a lot of supplementary materials and references to resources and additional video clips and a lot of good stuff. And that's already on the new Kabbalah website, which I'm not going to tell you now, just next week. Let's watch this next clip as well.
No, I had a question, and the question was, how much did you cut them by?
We have actually produced more oil.
No. How much did you cut licenses and permits on federal land?
We must change with it.
I have written an open letter to President Obama, reviving that slogan. You know, during the Clinton presidential campaign, they had a slogan called, "It's the economy, stupid." For me, the slogan is, "It's the worldview, stupid." It's unless the worldview changes, unless the worldview acknowledges listening to the values, listening to the personal meaning of life and the social meaning of life, unless we do this, real change cannot come. So I wrote to President Obama, if you talked about real change that we can believe in, if you really want change that we can believe in, please help us to change our worldview.
Well, the change of man is the key to changing everything else in the world. Without it, nothing significant will change. What we need is not just patching up, not just solutions to current problems. What we need is a transformation, a fundamental transformation, which means a change of values, the change of thinking, change of consciousness, change in the way the human being thinks and acts.
Worldviews affect the engine of civilization. It affects who we each individually think who we are and how we behave, and our moral sense, business. It affects everything. An experiment was done by two social psychologists where they did the following. They took a bunch of students and they had them read one of two passages. One of the passages was description of who we think we are. And the key phrase in this paragraph was, "You're nothing but a pack of neurons," that were basically all material substances, in which case everything you think you are, all of your thoughts and emotions and all of your interior life is nothing but a pack of neurons. And then they gave the students the opportunity to do a couple of experiments where they could cheat if they wanted to. And what they found was that the students who read the passage, "You're nothing but a pack of neurons," cheated significantly more. If your worldview says that there is no inherent meaning in anything, and ultimately the universe is a pointless object, and when you die you're dead and there's nothing else going on, then it changes your sense of, how do I need to live right now? Well, I should get everything I should get right now. I should cheat if I have to. Whereas if we had a different model, which said maybe you're part of some gigantic living system with some kind of inherent meaning and all the rest, it could have consequences not only for yourself, but for your loved ones and everyone else.
All the problems that we're facing right now, they're not problems. They're actually questions.
Who are we? Who do we really choose to be? How do we choose to relate to life itself? How do we choose to relate to all the different elements of life, the environment, the planet itself, obviously the people?
Why are we here, and where are we going from here?
What is the meaning of my life?
We're in a transition stage where the old answers are no longer sustainable, and that's why we're facing the crises we face. So there's a population in a state of flux saying the old stuff doesn't work, and we're ready for new answers that will create a newer, more sustainable civilization. Simple point, the old civilization is no longer sustainable, the answers are flawed, new answers are in, and we're in the moment of taking those new answers and weaving a new culture that will support those answers and support ourselves.
At this critical point in time, we have to redefine what it means to be human. We have to choose a new identity, literally choose a new identity, and recreate ourselves anew as a humanity. Recreate ourselves as a brand new kind of living organism, a brand new kind of species, and recreate the organism as a cluster, as a group, rather than as a scattering of single individuals. We have to change our thinking about who we are in relationship to each other.
We've been living in a competitive society for too long, and the world we see is the result, the ego, the competitive ego. What we have to do is learn how to cooperate and drop the ego and realize, again, that if we have people in one country that are very poor and people that are very wealthy, the wealthy are going to have to get big armies and big fences to keep those other people out. It's not going to work with the divisions of society that we have today and the stratification.
Man has to go through a change to realize that his life should be lived for the unity of mankind, and that we're all like one man and one heart, and we're sharing that desire, sharing that thought. We're all in mutual connection, making mutual concessions in reciprocity, like cells of a living body.
Okay. So we need change, right? But who needs to change? We need to change. That's what we just saw now. So the world is changing, that's clear. It's becoming interdependent, that's clear. The human ego on the global scale is growing, and that's leading to crisis. Something needs to change, and that's us. Each and every one of us. And by each and every one of us changing, by just me, only if I change, then I will see a completely different reality. So we need to change our worldview. We need to change our perception, right? Like we saw in this clip. Are we just a pack of neurons of something meaningless, or are we part of something great, of this evolutionary process that's been happening from the beginning of the universe 14 billion years ago, that's all been leading to one thing? Right, so let me pop back here again, and I'll just take a few seconds. I see about 100 new viewers have joined us in the last 15 minutes. So we're talking about why Kabbalah is being revealed today. That's what we're talking about. So going back 14 billion years ago, I mentioned kind of briefly, and I said, yeah, well, there was a thought and there was a desire created up here, right? So I want to elaborate on that a little bit more. This plays a key part in why Kabbalah is being revealed today. Because when this thought of creation, call it the force of infinity, of absolute love, of perfection, of I don't know, anything great you can imagine, put that together, multiply it, put it to the power of 1,000,000, and maybe that comes close to what this is, right? So it's a force of just perfection. And this force of perfection, which is really the force of nature that we see today, is it wants to bring this perfection to every existing being in reality. That's the purpose of creation, actually. And in order to do that, there was a process of 125 degrees of concealment. That this, let's call it light, okay? From now on, we'll just call it light. It distanced itself from this desire that was created until what was left was nothing but a tiny spark of that desire. Let's call it that plus. And along with the desire that was created, let's call that the minus. And what's happening today, what we're discovering today on this timeline of development, that when the human desire is evolving, this growing ego that just, I think there was a few comments here from Mark who said, I wish we could just go back to primitive societies. And I completely understand where this is coming from, Mark, because we all have that feeling sometimes that being grown up is just too complicated. We just want to go back to being kids. No worries, everything is simple. You go out, you play, you play with the sand, you get dirty, you come back home, you eat, you have a shower, you go to sleep, and that's it. Life is nice and simple, right? And we all have this feeling sometimes. But obviously we can't go back to being children. And growing up means our desire grows, but also our potential of what we have with this desire is also growing alongside with that, right? So we cannot take our desire back to when it was in the past, when it was a small desire that was just satisfied by what? By food, right? By sex, by having a family. Go back 20,000 years, 30,000, 50,000 years ago. That's it. You had these things, you were satisfied. But the human desire is growing, and there's a reason why it's growing. There's a reason why it's evolving. So let's put on this axis, let's put one more thing that happened 6,000 years ago. Let's put it around here. All right, so we'll just call it minus 6,000. So around 6,000, to be more accurate, 5,780 years ago, there was a person, just like you and me, and his name was Adam. And just like you and me, Adam wasn't satisfied from life. He had everything around. He was married, he had family, he had his field, but he wasn't fulfilled because he felt deep down inside that there is something beyond in reality. And Adam was actually the first Kabbalist that ever lived. This desire led him to discover the causal forces of nature. The forces that we don't currently see, but the forces that are the driving mechanism that activates the reality as we see it today. And simply because he had this desire, he discovered this force. He wrote a book about it. It's called Raziel the Angel. In that book, he describes the relationships that he found with this force. That book is widely misinterpreted. People think that he writes about amulets and they start creating amulets based on it because he draws and he writes about things that could seem that way, but he doesn't speak a single word about this world. He speaks only of this extra dimension, you could say, that he discovered, and that's all he speaks of. And this is the first step in the evolution of humanity to a new degree. So why is Kabbalah being revealed today? Well, it's being revealed today because the world is in crisis. The world needs a method to bring it out of its crisis. That's what we saw in the first clip. Growing interdependence, growing ego. These two things together, they clash, right? And then in the second video, we saw that we are the ones that actually need to change, right? So why is Kabbalah being revealed today? Because we are ready for it. Our desires have evolved enough in order to be able to take it to the next degree. So why is Kabbalah being revealed today? Because we can actually use this method to bring real change to ourselves, to our lives, to our surroundings. It's not a full answer, I know, but we're only halfway through the session. So let's keep going. Let's watch another video from a different course, which I've shown, I think, 2 or 3 videos from in this, in Kabbalah Explained Simply. It's from the course Kabbalah and the Science of Human Emergence. It's a course that is also on the new KabU website, which I'll tell you about next week. But for now, let's take a look at clip number 6 from the course, The Science of Human Emergence. 3.8 billion years ago, something incredible happened. A rock came to life. That was our beginning. No one knows exactly how or where life emerged, just that it did. So what can almost 4 billion years of evolution teach us about the next level of human development? When we look around us, we see life everywhere. Trees, people, animals, insects, plants. The vast complexity of life around us started from very simple life forms. And if we carefully observe the stages of evolution and emergence, we might be able to identify a pattern that can teach us something about the emergence of mankind as well. So let's go back 3.8 billion years ago to the first life form known to us. It was a single-celled organism called prokaryotes. Back then, they were considered super complex beings, in comparison to the rocks and minerals. Now, there were different types of these cells, each doing different things. For example, one type was a bacterial cell that converted solar energy. Another cell used oxygen to break down materials like sugar. Each cell had its unique abilities and made a unique contribution to maintain balance in its ecosystem. However, they would also fight for resources, and this went on for like 1 billion years until something amazing happened. The different types of cells reached a conclusion that they're better off sharing resources and responsibilities. Now, at first, it was just basic forms of collaboration. Give me this, take that. But then a whole new level of collaboration emerged, and this changed everything. The cells started behaving like a single organism, as if they shared a collective consciousness. And when that happened, bam! A new level of life had emerged. That process happened again and again, leading to the evolution of the nucleated cell, about 2.1 billion years ago. That was a big deal. We're talking about a cell that's 1,000 times bigger and much more complex. It's like comparing a house to a huge city. Now, these nucleated cells, they carry incredible complexity. They have about 30,000 recycling centers that take male-functioning proteins and turn them to useful amino acids. They have about 1,000 powerhouses that transfer energy, and much, much more. Scientists aren't exactly sure how the nucleated cell was formed, but one thing is certain. Thousands of components in this little city are working in perfect harmony, and they appear to be sharing a form of collective consciousness. So, evolution continues, and about 600 million years ago, the nucleated cell begins to come together and forms a multicellular organism, like plants and animals. Now, they have trillions of nucleated cells that weren't just cooperating. They shared a collective consciousness and became incredible things like sea sponges and frogs and Venus flytraps and tree-dwelling mammals and amphibians and dinosaurs. And eventually, about 200,000 years ago, our species began to evolve. Now, in a relatively short time, we found tons of ways to communicate, to cooperate, to trade with each other, but also to wage wars and destroy the planet. So what is the next stage of human evolution? Well, if we look at 4 billion years of history, we can see a pattern. Individual things connect and they form collectives that enable the emergence of a higher level of consciousness. Now, thousands of years ago, Kabbalists described something that's strikingly similar. They describe humanity as a single collective soul, an emergent state that we're all part of, and they call it the soul of Adam Harishon. In this soul, all the pieces work together in perfect harmony. They give each individual the ability to realize its full potential, both for itself and for the whole. So, if our emergent state is a state of collective consciousness, where we feel and act as one harmonious entity, why does it look like we're so far from this state, living in a world that's filled with chaos, crisis, destruction? Stay tuned to find out. All right, first of all, I hope you enjoyed that clip. It's not a biology lesson. That clip is aimed at bringing us to an understanding of a process that's going on here. All right, so what is that process? Basically, let's just jump back to our axis again. So let's say minus 3.8 billion years ago. 3.8 billion years ago. Yes, I know my axis is very proportional. You have to excuse me. So 3.8 billion years ago, it was the beginning of life, right? And basically the main point to take from this video was that in every process where something new and greater evolved, it was always, the state that always came before that was some kind of conflict, some kind of, you could say, breaking of the entire system, like a collapse. But it's not really a collapse if you look at the big picture, if you understand where this is going. So if we look at humanity today and the world today, then it seems not in the best shape, right? I don't need to explain even why. We've had a whole year of a virus circulating the whole world, and putting aside the financial crises that's happened as a result of that, and before that things weren't that amazing either, and billions of people hungry, etc., etc., etc. So when you look at things, it seems like the world is very, very bad. But if you understand, if you zoom out and you look at the entire process of evolution, you see how things evolve, then you might start thinking, wait a minute, are we in that process now? Where are we in that process? So Kabbalists point out to a very special time, that is today. Why today? So why is Kabbalah being revealed today? It's because the human desire has reached the end of its current development, and that's over here. That's what we're seeing today, right? We're seeing that it's a state of satiation. It is just no longer being fulfilled. It's not satisfied by anything this world has to offer. That, you could say, is the greatest crisis of this century. That the desire is there, let's say it's like this clear, and then we chase some kind of fulfillment, but as soon as the fulfillment hits our vessel, it ruins the pleasure. That's what's happening. That's the cause of depression, right? Depression is, I'm just not being satisfied. I'm getting things that people tell me will make me happy, but I'm still not happy. Something is missing deep down inside, and I don't know what that is, right? And more people are beginning to feel this today. And it's not by coincidence. And it's not by coincidence that this search for spiritual fulfillment has grown so much in the past few years. It is because in our day, right now, in these years, 2021, this is when the wisdom of Kabbalah needs to be revealed to all of humanity. Because what is the wisdom of Kabbalah? Do you know what Kabbalah means in Hebrew? It means to receive. That's all it means. Kabbalah. That's it. Reception. It's the wisdom of how to receive. We don't know how to receive in a way that will fulfill our desire. And as a result of that, we remain empty. So the wisdom of Kabbalah is being revealed today because now is when we need it most. We need a method that can help us balance out this force of nature. So the ego has grown and reached its maximum satiation, this minus force. And the wisdom of Kabbalah is simply this method to climb back up on these 125 degrees. That's it. Or in other words, it's a method of how to receive. That's it. Or in other words, it's a method of how to reconnect the shattered pieces of the collective soul that was created. That's it. So I want to continue to another last video for this session. It's also from the course, the Kabbalah and the Science of Human Emergence. It's less biology. It's, we'll see, and we'll see what you think. So keep posting them. I'm looking at your comments on Facebook and on YouTube, so keep posting them, please. And if you just recently joined the session, then I hope you're enjoying it. And if you can like and subscribe, I would appreciate that. That'd be awesome. And for now, let's continue to the final clip for this session from the Science of Human Emergence. So, there is a human emergent state, and Kabbalists are the scientists that have found a way to tap into it. In this final video, we're finally going to reveal exactly how they did it. Remember when you were a kid, young and innocent, and you had all these meaningful questions like, why am I alive? What's the purpose of all of this? What is this world we live in? And like most kids, you probably were ignored or got some superficial response that didn't really satisfy your need for answers. And so these existential questions typically get repressed in most of us as we grow older. Not in you though. Just like the unique imaginal cells in the caterpillar that can sense the newly emerging reality of the butterfly, you have a sense that there has to be more to life than what you're familiar with. That the grand scheme of things is much, much bigger than what we know, and you just can't ignore it. So, where do these meaningful questions and feelings come from? Remember that individualistic software we spoke about? You know, the one that's preventing us from sensing the emergent state? Well, your questions about the meaning of life and the nature of existence actually come from a single point within you that's connected to a different kind of software. A tiny point of desire that's linked to a deeper level of reality. Kabbalists call this the point in the heart. And they say that its awakening is the beginning of its development. But it starts out as just a point. It has no mass, no area, no volume. It has only potential. And it holds in it the entire DNA of our emergent state. But for now, you just feel it like an itch, an inconvenience, maybe even a sense of hope. Something that's always there in the back of your mind, not letting you rest. Something that's pushing you to grow and to discover. Now, every human being has that point within. But just like in the evolving caterpillar, it lights up only in some people at first. They are the imaginal cells of the human network. And those who develop that point can also be called Kabbalists. They're just ordinary people like you and me, who felt an awakening of that point in their hearts, but nothing could shut it off. So they began to nurture that point, connect with it, engage with it, and they learned how to create an environment where that point could grow into a new sensor, a non-material organ that can perceive the emergent state of humanity. And over generations, they developed an empirical method, a science of how to nurture that point, and they documented their findings and discoveries. And like fractals in nature that have a repeating pattern, no matter how close you zoom in, they found that the emergent state, or in other words, the structure of the human network, is also fractal. And they refer to this structure as the 10 Sephirot. This means that whether one person discovers it, or a group of people, or all of humanity, they all find that same structure. And every time another person develops their point in their heart and discovers that structure, it sends a ripple effect throughout the entire network, which accelerates the awakening of additional points of these imaginal cells that contribute to the evolution of humanity. So, when Kabbalists say that a person can change the world, they don't mean it as a figure of speech, they mean it literally. Bala Sulam, the preeminent Kabbalist of the previous century, wrote that if one is rewarded, he or she sentences themselves and the whole world to a scale of merit. They also found that the best way for people to develop their points in their hearts is to do it together. When people begin to inspire each other's points in their hearts, they mimic their emergent state of connection. And as a result, they develop much, much faster. So, we've built an environment where you can do just that, and we invite you to connect, to become an imaginal cell, to grow that point and unlock your next level of development. Listen, if you feel this awakening now, don't let it go away. Embrace it, nurture it, grow it. So it's the end of the course, but a whole new beginning. Okay, so that's it, you get it? Maybe to conclude, if you're here right now, then it means that you feel this point awakening in you and you want it to be fulfilled. And nothing will or can stop you from fulfilling this point. That I can say. And Kabbalah is being revealed today for you, specifically for you, because Kabbalah is the method of finding purpose and meaning in life. It's the method of bringing balance, because Kabbalah teaches you how to increase this positive force in nature. We naturally have this negative force working all the time. We don't have to worry about that. That our egoistic nature is taken care of. But we do have to consciously work on building this positive force. This is the force that is pushing us to evolve to a higher degree, to a higher level. And it's available to anyone that just wants to discover this. No limitation at all except for a desire. So I'm going to take a look at some questions here and comments. There was a question here in Facebook. Let me scroll up to it, from Ian. He said, "We're not destined to become a colony of ants. Individual freedom is absolutely necessary to perfect the soul. What you're describing was tried in communes and kibbutzim, and it was a failure." That's a really good point, Ian, and I want to discuss that for a few minutes. So we're not destined to become a colony of ants, correct? Because ants are built in a way that they already behave collectively. They all sense naturally that they're part of this whole. By the way, by doing so, they're amazing. They can do incredible things. Incredible things. I talk about this in the first session of the course of human emergence. When you have ants working in a colony, they build structures. You can even search on YouTube, ant cities or something like that. You'll see amazing, huge underground structures built by ants that when scientists looked at, human beings would only be able to build this with advanced degrees and engineers, etc., because they have ventilation systems there and complex systems within the ant colony. And this is due to their collective effort. Now, we're not destined to become like a colony of ants. That is 100% correct. We're destined to become much more, because the difference is that we need to consciously evolve towards this state. What state? Not a state that you described of communes and kibbutzim. These are corrupted states that the human ego was searching to maximize its benefit, and that's why they failed. I have no idea what this corrected society will behave like, what social form it will take upon itself. I have no idea. I just know that the entire human society is evolving to discover its interconnection, to build this collective intelligence, this collective wisdom, I don't even know how to describe it, between every single human being, to feel this interconnection that we're already in. We are interconnected. You can't change that. And what we need to do is to feel this interconnection, that I will feel you in as part of me and you will feel me as part of you. And once we build that sensation, once we build this feeling, then we'll see what social structures we build and political systems and who knows what. I'm not even talking about that. Although Kabbalists do envision a certain type of society, but for now, it's irrelevant. That's 2 steps ahead. Let's first think of how we can build this connection between us. How we can build not just an artificial connection that, okay, I'm connected to you, so give me some benefit and I'll give you some benefit. That's trade. That's all it is, and it's benefit driven. On the, if I don't benefit from this interaction, then I'll leave. On the good case scenario. And the bad case scenario is I'll harm you. But what we need to discover is that we have the potential to find infinite energy in this connection that we can build between us. Because we didn't really cover it in this session about what I spoke about in this clip, about this collective soul and this state of interconnection that Kabbalists discovered. But it is a core part of why Kabbalah is being revealed today. It's being revealed because it's the science of connection. That's also our tagline for Kabbu, the science of connection, because it talks about the forces that have been shattered between us. When we look at this over here, and I described in the beginning this light and this vessel that were in complete connection, and then the light distanced itself from the created being, all that happened here was simply a collective desire that shattered into 600,000 pieces in the beginning, and later on, you can't see, and after 600,000 pieces, it shattered into, let's do it up here. So it shattered into 600,000 pieces, and then later on into 8 billion pieces. And that's who we are today. Each and every one of us. We are part of this shattered soul. So why is Kabbalah being revealed today? It's being revealed so each and every one of us can find this connection, can find this balancing force in our lives, in the universe around us, in the people that we love everywhere. We're already surrounded by perfection. Only thing we're missing is like that radio that you have in the room, and when you turn it on you can hear the music. That's the state humanity is in. We're surrounded by this state of perfection, and all we need to do is to tune ourselves to that point, to turn on that radio. And that's the wisdom of Kabbalah. That is why it is being revealed today. So I hope you enjoyed the session. A lot of great questions. I think we'll continue somewhere in this area of this topic next week as well, just because there was a lot of interest in this, I see, and a lot of great questions which I still didn't get a chance to answer. So I appreciate each and every one of you coming here, and if you enjoyed it, then please click that like, that subscribe button, so that way more people can hear about this, can be part of this, can participate in this beautiful wisdom. So I'm Gil Shir, it's Kabbalah Explained Simply, and today we spoke about why is Kabbalah being revealed today.